Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here, and so I have this impromptu guest. I know I've promised him many a times on the show. If you've been watching, and I get requests all the time, you got to have Daniel Hopsicker on. And for those that don't know who Daniel Hopsicker is, first I want to introduce you to his website, madcowprod.com. Now you're going to get a lot of views. Obviously, you're not going to see in the mainstream media, but you're not going to see in the alternative media as well. And although, I don't agree with Daniel on everything, he is a pioneer in exposing the CIA, not only with his book Barry and the Boys, but I originally found him through his video, which was based on a book he did called Terrorland, Muhammad Atta and the Venice Flying Circus. And it became very apparent to me that Muhammad Atta dating a stripper and appearing to be a cocaine dealer was not what the media was telling me. So I took this journey that took me to Rudy Decker's and this flight school and all these oddities. And I found Daniel Hopsicker. And he's been at this game long before I have. I want to say, you got to be at this close to 35, 40 years now, Daniel?
Oh, thank you. That's a little long. No, actually, it was 99.
98, oh, so you're not right in that blog era.
I'm a business reporter. I had a business show that was airing internationally on NBC. And conspiracy was in the air. And so I wanted to get on the bandwagon, and I went out to shoot a half-an-hour pilot called Conspiracy, strangely enough. And if you remember any of those old shows like In Search Of and half-hour shows, there was always like one credible story in the middle. Mm-hmm. And the credible story I was going to use on the pilot was Barry Seal. So it was going to be a 12-and-a-half-minute piece. I went down to Louisiana, and like a year and a half later, it was a 2-hour documentary because it was real. Because it was real. And I'm going, oh, yeah.
So you did the documentary before the book, because I've also seen the documentary. I mean, where you're showing the tail numbers of the C-130s. You're interviewing these guys that were shipping this in. You did the actual documentary before the book, Barry and the Boys, then.
Yeah, at that point, I still had money. I had a business show. And so, it was a professionally produced 2-hour show, The Secret Heartbeat of America. And I had I'm from LA, and I had spent my entire working life in Los Angeles, and I knew one or two big dogs, and the wife of one of them pretty well. Gave it to her for him, and he came back and he said, "Oh, maybe I could sell it if we take you out of it."
Oh, which boy.
Well, it went on like that. Okay, I mean, you saw the recent movie about Barry Seal with Tom Cruise in it. Imagine my surprise, that it was like must have been 15 seconds worth of the story of Barry Seal, and the rest of it was the director and the stars, joint homosexual fantasy.
Well, let's talk about the director for a second, because his father actually worked as one of the prosecutors in the Iran-Contra scandal.
What? I found that out. I had no idea. He was, first of all, this man has a reputation in Hollywood of being an utter, can we say bad words? An utter asshole?
Yeah, you can say, hey, you can go as hog wild as you want. This is the internet.
Probably another 5 minutes. Crew members would post to Hollywood publications saying, "Don't work with this guy." Mm-hmm. Okay. He went on from there. He picked my brain for a couple. I would assume he was going to buy my book. I mean, I wrote the book about Barry Seal. There's no one else's book out there sells for $50 a pop and sells. Okay.
Yeah. It doesn't have that famous photograph where Porter Goss is sitting with him long before he was running drugs from South America into this country. And that's the thing, that they whitewash it from the beginning. First of all, how he gets recruited by the CIA, how, not that Barry Seal was generally, like an ugly guy, but he was certainly heavier set his whole life than Tom Cruise. They couldn't even get that right. They had to put him crashing in the middle of the street. Every agency converges on him at once. Bill Clinton makes the call. I mean, as Hollywood cheese as it fucking gets. And that's why I did my it was a short piece for We Are Change about 2-3 years ago, which actually, has, I think, 50, 60,000 hits, which is decent. I mean, I wish more people would realize these huge differences. But why don't you talk about that? What's the evidence that SEAL had been running in intelligence circles, I believe, since the 50s?
I was on my, I had never been in Louisiana, like, for any extended period of time, a weekend in New Orleans. And I was on my way down there from Los Angeles when I stopped in Santa Fe home of Dr. Roger Morris and Sally Denton, who wrote the book about MENA, called Partners in Power.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Roger Morris had been on the National Security Council for Richard Nixon until he resigned. I mean, he was a heavyweight, major historian. And Sally Denton wrote the book about Kentucky, about the company in Kentucky. And I'm sitting there sipping iced tea with him in the middle of the afternoon when Dr. Morris looks at me and out of the blue asks, "What have you heard about Barry flying a getaway plane out of Dallas?" And I look at him and I went, "Dr. Morris, gee, I didn't know there was a getaway plane, and true story.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that was the end of it. He didn't say another word. And I kind of suspected he wished he hadn't brought it up at all later. But, it's not the kind of thing you forget, is it? It is not. I mean, I had never been about to investigate someone and someone else that, find out what you can about him having flown a getaway plane. And indeed he did. And later I learned, and did you ever learn what an open secret is?
Oh,
I mean, like.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I was having dinner. I was in a meeting. I also did a documentary on elections called The Big Fix 2000 about how you fix voting machines.
Sure.
Right?
Diebold. Great people at Diebold.
Oh, well, get me off on that.
Yeah.
Because I'm a business reporter, okay? So what I did after the 2000 election is I investigated who owned the two major corporations in the business.
Mm-hmm.
ES&S in Omaha,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and Sequoia Pacific,
Uh-huh.
Which caused the Florida vote snafu. And unique among Americans today, I discovered that the guy that owns Sequoia Pacific was Ireland's richest multimillionaire, a guy by the name of Dr. Michael Smurfit, who was neither a doctor nor was he Irish, but he was probably Ireland's richest multimillionaire. Okay, and he hung out at Geneva racetracks with Zurich currency speculators. Mm-hmm. Is that a guy you want counting your votes? But
personally, I want a hard ballot. I still can't believe that there hasn't been, since Greg Ballast and Bev Harris.
I don't have any contacts in voting anymore. But if you do, tell them, okay, it's not just about it is about the machines and it's about how you fix the machines, but it's also about the ownership of the company. Okay, the guy that founded the biggest election company, which is today ES&S, was with the NSA. His name was Howard Esping, Esping. I will say no more.
So going back to the open secret, your investigations into me.
Right. Okay.
Yes. No. That's fine. Go ahead.
I'm waiting for Barry and the Boys to come out, so I'm shooting a documentary based on some wacky friends of mine's assertion that American elections might not be as open and honest as we all know them to be. This is in the year 2000. This is before the Florida vote snafu. So I was out there. I was shooting when it happened. Okay. So as part of that, I'm having dinner with a woman in New Orleans who had been stripped. They stole the election from a guy by the name of Giambaluca in New Orleans. Strangely enough, stole the election. And in Louisiana, they have this crazy law where if you are a candidate, you are allowed to examine the voting machines for 3 days after the elections. And so she decided to do it. Probably had never been done before. She went to a warehouse. She brought a cameraman. She brought what a smart cookie this Republican woman was, because he was shooting as she tested the machines, and she's narrating. I forget her name now.
Are you talking about Bev Harris from back in the day? Not Bev Harris, right? Was it Bev Harris? Because I know Bev Harris did that HBO documentary. It's long before her, right? She got involved in 2004.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I wasn't doing elections in 2004.
No.
I was doing 9/11 in 2004.
Yeah.
So she would press my name. I'm voting for me, and it comes up Giambaluca. Press my name. 3-4 times. So I'm having dinner with her now, and her major backer is this mob restaurant owner, restaurateur. And I happened to mention, and one of his burly associates, and I happened to mention something about having learned about Barry Seal potentially being involved in the Kennedy assassination. And these two gentlemen exchanged a look, and in an instant, it all became clear. In an instant, I could see these two guys knew it. I mean, that's what an open secret is. Mm-hmm. Within certain circles, this stuff is known. It's like, I can't tell you how many times I've discovered something and been all excited with myself, and I want to tell somebody, and so I call somebody like Gene Tatum, who used to fly for the CIA.
Yeah, Chip Tatum, sure.
And he like smirks and goes, "No shit, Sherlock." It's not exactly.
For people that don't know that story, I mean, Chip Tatum was one of these guys that was running the drugs, running the arms, and then, as they told people, they could run their own cargo as well. That was part of the deal. And, they often had side deals on this. It's actually in my film Invisible Empire. I mean, when you look at Seal being a career intelligence guy and Porter Goss eventually becoming the head of the CIA, right? These connections. What do you think he was doing before the South America operation?
Barry Seal?
Yeah.
Oh, Porter Goss.
Well, both of them. I mean, Porter Goss. I mean, I bring up Porter Goss because, he's integral in the 9/11 cover-up later. And even when we get into Epstein today, and, you look at that network, and obviously, you have the Mueller document where he's an informant for the FBI. You have Vicky Ward saying he's attached to Adnan Khashoggi in the 80s. He's running with the CFR, the Trilateral Commission. He's with all these powerful people, and Prince Andrew being one of them, also in the arms trade. Is he laundering money for them? Is he facilitating deals, meet and greets? Is he compromising these people? I don't know if we'll ever know, but it sure seems like the same network when you've got an attorney general. What's that?
Big gold star to you, dude. Big gold star to you, okay? This was described to me, a lot of times you receive information and you're not ready for it. So, it just sort of goes right over your head. Okay. Early in the time I was in Louisiana investigating Barry Seal, and I was with Barry Seal's widow, who introduced me to everyone Barry ever knew. Okay, and that was the whole point of she wanted to know. CIA widows want to know, okay, what their husbands did, and they don't. And this guy's a retired customs agent who spent in New Orleans and Epic, one of those guys, right? And he expressed surprise that I expressed surprise that Barry knew somebody who didn't think he knew. And this guy says to me, he says, "There's not a lot of players out there. They all pretty much know each other." So you're talking about, okay, the people how I know Russiagate is real is because people that I've been investigating since the year 2000, they go back to Iran-Contra, are still popping up in it.
But in what sense? Because I think this is probably somewhere where we differ. Like, I know that obviously Trump is corrupt, does deals with oligarchs, but do you think that like Ray McGovern and Bill Binney are wrong that information was downloaded and it was indeed hacked? Because I have read the report. I went through and I saw the obstruction of justice.
Look.
Yeah.
Let's talk first principles first, okay?
Sure.
There was there was a moment when I had to realize that I could be successfully lied to. Uh-huh. It was a surprise. I was sitting across from a guy who probably runs aviation for the CIA in South Florida, and I'm looking at this guy, and I'm going, this guy could lie to me, and I wouldn't even know it because he was smart as a tack. Okay, He was smart. So until we accept the fact that we can be successfully lied to, and then have to revise our opinion of something, nothing happens. Nothing happens. I think. Well, we could spend an hour. I could tell you. I mean, there's a ton. We're here to talk about disinformation right now.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I like open discussions because
I'm here. Okay, and this is a subject that's near and dear to my heart because I know how it's done. I've seen it done to me. Okay. And if you want, I'll give you 5 minutes on that. I don't want to bore you with it.
Well, my point is Robert Mueller, obviously, you don't trust him. He helped cover up 9/11. He suppressed people like Robert Wright, Barry Carmody.
I'm too much of a naive, patriotic American to feel that way. I grew up in the Midwest, okay? The Midwest produces people that are just incredulous. My God, I knew who Robert Mueller was, and yet I trusted him to come through. I mean, Robert Mueller, when he was the I know all this. Robert Mueller, when he was U.S. attorney, and that's why I'm in this business, okay? Because Gary Webb got screwed, and that hurt, and I felt bad about it, okay? And I went out to prove him he was right, and I think I did.
Yeah, well, you did. I mean, you look at Casolaro too in that network, but that's kind of the problem, I just I did this video on Barr because. For Barr to say, for instance, I mean, we're all over the place in this interview, guys. And by the way, I got a super chat we'll get to because they got a question for you, Daniel. When Barr comes out and says that he believes Epstein killed himself, and we already have the camera that's missing. We have nobody actually speaking to the guard that found him. We know he was now dead for at least 2 hours. He says the hallway. You've seen now the marks underneath, the 3 breaks, the whole 9, right? You know the cover-up crew is in. They never went into New Mexico. We might not get the 10,000 pages public. I mean, I go on of Epstein forever. But in 91, he becomes Attorney General. What's he doing before that? He's working with Robert Mueller to be the cover-up crew for Neil Bush and the gang in the BCCI scandal, where they're also funneling money to the Mujahideen and that network through that, Banks of Criminals Incorporated.
How do you know that?
Yeah. What's that? Where did I get that one? Go check it out. So if I do if I just did a video, it's actually C-SPAN, and it's with an old LA Times reporter. I think his name is Robert Osterov, and they're going through all the things right before his confirmation hearings. This is from 91, and they actually discuss how, first of all,
I'm so happy when I meet someone like you, okay? That's like a generation, I swear to God, dude, okay? Because I'm a baby boomer, and I wonder if anybody the fuck knows what's going on.
Brother, I'm so with you, and that's the thing.
Believe me, so kudos to you. You got enough. Okay, did you read Compromised?
No, I haven't read Compromised.
Okay, dude, the major book, okay?
Okay.
Under everything else, was a book called Compromised by Terry Reid. Okay, and Terry had sat next to Barry Seal.
Yeah, he's one of the runners. He's in my film Invisible Empire, at least clips. Sure.
Okay,
I know he is.
And Bill Barr's in his book.
Yeah. Yes, as Robert Johnson. Robert Johnson. Yes, go. I know, man. And that's my point. So when I'm going through this stuff, and Bill Barr are the key guys that are working on BCCI. We know that Neil Bush and his buddies walk. Okay, we know that anybody, it's basically slap on the wrist style like we're seeing with a lot of it today, right? The whitewashing of major events. And you see that, and then you also see that Barr is the architect of going in to get Noriega, the asset that worked with us and then was going to out us. And not only did we go and get him in that paperwork where we can go kidnap somebody and now bring him to our country, but even, the sentence we gave him, we didn't stand by our word. He died in prison. I'm not saying the guy's a good guy. I'm saying it's a bad precedent when the CIA can go get their ex-assets, and just imprison them forever.
Okay, listen up.
Yep.
Listening. Right? You weren't here for Watergate.
No.
All right? Not your fault, dude. Not your fault. Okay? So let me tell you something that will make sense to you, okay? The enemy of my enemy is my friend, okay? The CIA took Nixon down. Nixon, for prosecuting a war for 5 years longer than he should have. There were thousands of Americans dead because of that, and that's why he got taken down. And the CIA did it, and God bless him. And why the CIA did it is interesting, because Nixon was attempting to bring drug functions into the White House, which the CIA was not particularly happy about. But they brought him down, but you don't need them today, okay? How many nations in the world are there that have complained that the Russians have meddled in their elections? Okay, that weren't being run by Bill Barr or Robert Mueller? How many countries are there around there? Okay, the guy that's instrumental in Russiagate, the Oliver North of Russiagate, the oligarch Oleg Deripaska, attempted a coup in Montenegro 2 years ago because the election didn't go the way he wanted it to.
See, I'm unfamiliar with him, so I'd have to go and look at it. But I know you post a lot of very credible stuff.
That's why I'm telling you, Russiagate is real, because I knew who Deripaska was in 2005.
But don't you think that this goes on all over the place? Like, obviously, you just said that Russia's trying to influence elections worldwide. I would imagine so. I would imagine so, because we do the same thing.
Dude, the The U.S. has done what Russia did to us in 2016 100 times,
Yeah.
1,000 times. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Difference is the epic making difference is we're the empire.
Mhm.
Okay, we're the Roman Empire. When guys at the periphery had enough money, okay, to bribe everyone in the Senate and make Mr. Nice Guy the new emperor, okay, the game changed, okay, and that our game changed in 2016, okay. We're no longer in charge, dude.
I
Trust
don't
me.
know that we were in charge
Wait.
before that.
Now at this point in time, you not only have to go through our elite
Mhm.
to get anything done, to get like a pothole fixed. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because they're gonna suck out everything they can first. Then you have to go through the Russians. You
Yeah,
have to
but
go
don't you think though? I mean, when you look at least the U.S. perspective, you kind of have this Anglo-American Saudi-Israeli alliance in the Middle East to kind of dominate Eurasia. Obviously, because they want that spot against Russia. You know, you look at the UN.
And you should want it too. And you should want it. And I do. Hold on.
All right, yeah,
Okay.
listen, I'm
Dude,
listening.
I've lived through Vietnam. I've lived through Iran-Contra. I lived through the fixing of the 2000 election. I lived through the war in Iraq, which didn't do anything to us. Okay. And we have a lot to answer for, and yet, better us than Russia, better us than anyone I can think of, because at least we have what used to be an open democratic society, although it's not anymore.
Yeah,
Okay?
that's the problem, Dan.
We're the most advanced. We are the most advanced country in the world, my friend. Okay,
Yeah.
we have people of every persuasion and ethnicity, and I'm not here to sell you America, but if someone has
be tough.
if someone has to run the world, I'd rather it be us.
Uh-huh.
I'm telling you, that's me.
I mean, see, there's my problem because, first of all, we're setting another bad precedent under this Department of Justice with Julian Assange and extraditing him. There's a complete media blackout on all the OPCW leaks that clearly show that April Duma attack never happened and was contrived. And now, I mean, I don't want to go to war with Iran, brother. You know what I'm saying? I don't.
I'm not talking about Iran.
Yeah, but I mean, they want that whole region. And they want military bases everywhere. Where are they going to stop?
Are you telling me? I'm not going to defend Donald Trump, but you can't be telling me Donald Trump wants to go to war, okay? Because Donald Trump got elected by not wanting.
Yeah, that's my problem. Well, listen, I'm from New York. We all knew Hillary was going to get the ticket, right? Normally, I would go third party, but I couldn't do Gary Johnson because I'd actually interviewed Gary many years ago, and he changed so many positions, and I just couldn't do it in my heart. It's not like I was, I'm no celebritard culture guy that worshiped Trump or liked his show or anything like that. But other than Rand Paul, who was up there and didn't make it very far, he was the only one talking about possibly leaving the Middle East.
There was always one guy in a press conference, okay, in anyone's press conference. Remember, and little voice in the background going, Rand Paul.
I liked Rand. I'm a Tulsi guy right now. And I don't agree with everything Tulsi's about either. Tulsi's, for me, the only person that's talking about, stopping these wars of aggression. I want out. I guess, I don't know, man. I get it's 2020. I know there's this big fear that China's going to take over, but we have such a technological alliance with them. I don't see that being a problem. Their social credit score, the predator class here would love to bring that here.
All right. Wait, stop right there, because I'm not comfortable on that level, okay? I'm a facts on the ground. Effects on the ground guy. Okay.
Sure.
I don't have a big picture, dude. Okay. Yeah. I can't tell you who did 9/11 and why. Okay.
Sure.
I can tell you that there was an op being run in Florida that was bringing hundreds of Arabs that had never been to South Florida here to learn to fly. I can't tell you why, because no one will tell me. Okay. But I'm not a big picture guy. I don't understand the world on that level.
Do you think though? All right. So let's talk 9/11 because we haven't been able to. With the hijackers, wouldn't that suggest to you? Obviously, with the drug running, same time as Casino Jack, also Jack Abramoff being in the background there. Then, you have this network that hijacks planes. Now, are you aware of the testimony of James Woods? You know what he came out with the media after 9/11 about, right? So it's in my film Fabled Enemies, but James Woods had made a claim. It was actually on O'Reilly and a couple other news outlets. But
see,
I know.
It was in your movie. What? What was the name of the movie?
It was in Fabled Enemies, my follow-up to Loose Change. That doesn't do
Okay,
anything.
that was Friday the 13th, part
This
11.
one's a break-off.
Well, God bless you, dude. Why are you talking to me? Okay, I make these little documentaries.
Because I think your work is brilliant, and I always like your insight. Like, for instance,
okay.
so for that one, I did nothing on any kind of.
I'm only kidding you, by the way.
Oh,
Dude.
I know. But
You're friends. You're friends with a couple buddies of mine up there.
yeah.
The
The Jackman
brothers.
Boys. I love them. And they're
and
on the Tulsi campaign now. I have them on.
I know they are.
Yeah.
When I meet someone like that, okay, and I know that they're real, you know who they are.
Yeah.
And they're good guys.
They're great guys.
So they vouch for you.
Oh, did they? That's good. So listen, so Otta and the crew, right? Obviously, I think they're real. I understand they hijack planes, the whole thing. In August, right before the attacks, James Woods makes the claim here that he's on a plane. It's actually Flight 11, okay? It ends up being Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hamzi confirmed, and then 2 other hijackers that are not confirmed to be whether or not they're the 17 guys. So he's on a plane, and he feels like, and they're in like, apparently like jumpsuits at the time, like not like Adidas, but track type suits. They don't have any luggage. They're arguing. This is his account. And when they're on the plane, he thinks they're casing the plane and they're going to hijack it. So he goes to the stewardess and he tells her this. So then the pilot comes out. He tells the pilot this as well. All 3 of them, they lock the door, everything. All 3 of them file a report afterwards to the proper authorities. Nothing's done.
And nothing happened.
Well, now hold on. Now nothing happened. Now here's where it gets interesting to me. That Dark Overlord dump. We only got 3 out of the 5 layers. Now this was a bunch of law firm back and forth lawsuits because of 9/11. But in there was the secret testimony of James Woods that went far beyond. That's where I got the 2 names. And actually, that's where I got the name of the guy. I haven't been able to find him, who reported the gun on the plane, who had got that phone call that somebody had been shot on Flight 11. So finally, I got his name in these documents. They were real. You know what I'm saying? And in his testimony, he says that not only was it confirmed that all 3 of those people put that through, less than a month before 9/11, and Khalid al-Mihdhar isn't, he's 77, he's not 11. Some of these guys aren't supposed to know each other. And then he says that it gets confirmed. He actually names the FBI agent he personally knows that those reports went through, and that Seymour Hersh also confirmed that those reports went through. So, these guys are protected on some level. Khalid al-Mihdhar living with and renting from an FBI informant.
Let's bring it up to the present, all right?
Yep.
In Pensacola, at the Naval Air Station, a bunch of people got shot, 2 or 3 killed, about 6 weeks ago by a Saudi pilot learning to fly there. 3 of his buddies, they had a let's watch horrific videos party the night before. 3 of his buddies were there filming him while he did it.
My God.
And the FBI comes out and says nothing happened. He's the only one responding. Hey, another lone nut gunman, all right? Another lone nut gunman. Why would they do that? All right. I don't know. See, this is I'm not. What I do know is that, and this is where it ties in, is that 1 week after 9/11, Newsweek, the Washington Post, and the Miami Herald all reported that 6 of the 19 hijackers had received military training on lockdown bases in the U.S. Okay. The 3 of them had been at the Defense Language Institute out in Monterey.
Yep.
3 of them had been at the Pensacola Naval Air Station, and that one of them, Muhammad Atta, had been attending International Officer School at Maxwell Air Force Base in Alabama. And that's a true story, dude. And you know how I know?
Hold on, the vice chancellor of that school in Monterey actually came out and said that Bush knew of the attacks were going to happen and did nothing about it. Anybody can see that quote. He never got interviewed on it, didn't call it an inside job or anything like that. But that's where several of the hijackers were supposedly training.
The night before the attack, George W. Bush was staying at the Colony Inn Hotel in Sarasota on Casey Key. There were batteries of anti-aircraft guns on the roof of the building. I don't travel with the presidential party, but I find it hard to believe that there are batteries of guns on the roof of every hotel that George Bush stayed at. So you explain it, okay?
No,
I mean,
I get. Listen, man, I'm as deep as you could possibly imagine. I watched that documentary on Air Force One because that's always been a mystery. To me, they tried to whitewash Angel is Next, and they gave a lot of stories, but they actually did admit, like while they were on the plane, there were discussions of the whole thing being an inside job and somebody even on the plane possibly being in the network. It was really bizarre, Ari Fleischer's in this. Who else? I mean, they even made the claim that they were worried when they were coming down the runway after escorting Bush out of that school, that they had a report that they were going to get pot shotted at from a sniper from like 100 yards. Obviously, there's a ton of disinformation in it. Dick Cheney's there. They whitewashed the PEOC, and I can go into that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
See, I can only tell you what I can only tell you what I have found on the ground, okay? Yeah. Because I don't have a brain that will allow me to go, because it won't.
Yeah.
I've been visiting my parents here in Venice, Florida, for 35 years. They retired here. I'd fly out, spend 4 or 5 nights. So there. I had never seen a cop. When I got to Venice, I got pulled over twice the first day I was here.
Listen, when I'm been in upstate New York most of my life, and then obviously down closer to the city at times, and
right.
There's cops everywhere in New York. I remember that first trip down.
Right. Okay, but wait. After the second time I got pulled over, I said to the cop, "Do you think I had to check in with the chief of police?" And he allowed that might be a good idea, and so I did.
Whoa!
And I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
Because when I went down to introduce myself to the chief of police, I wasn't important enough for him to break into his morning routine, and he fobbed me off on the lieutenant who was in charge of media relations, younger guy. And we're chatting, and I go, "Dude, I just want to know one thing. Does Rudy Deckers, the guy that ran the flight school, does he have any priors here in Venice?" Oh, and he gave me a pained look. And he said, "I'd love to tell,
I'd love to tell you.
I'd love to tell you." He said, "But the day after 9/11, the FBI came in here, swooped in here, took all of our files, loaded them into 2 Ryder trucks right outside this window here." He pointed outside the window, and then drove them to Sarasota, where they drove right onto a C-130, which then flew off to Washington D.C. with Jeb Bush aboard. True story.
So I got one super chat for you, and then I want to get into the cocaine boat. That just has been wiped away in the media. I think that's yeah. But so, before we get to the cocaine boat, hold on. Let me get this super chat in. Google account says, and you can give me as long an answer, short answer as you want. David Ferris, a young Barry Seal, and Oswald. Discuss. Any connections there?
Well, read my book. I don't think I've ever said that before. Read my book. It's in the book. We should do a little 30-second. Yeah. Okay. Because of what Dr. Morris had asked me about Barry Seal and JFK, I spent an extra 8 months in Louisiana investigating who Barry Seal had been before he became the biggest drug smuggler in American history. And it turned out he had been recruited by David Ferry into the same Civil Air Patrol unit that Oswald was in. They were contemporaries, and David Ferry was the guy that ran the outfit. And you can read books about that. Ed Haslam's written a great book about David Ferry was weaponizing cancer when he wasn't flying. Okay, so there. Barry Seal was flying weapons into the mountains of Cuba for Castro, to Castro. When in 1958, Barry Seal was like 16 years old. Wow. So there you go.
So you're telling me he got recruited even before he was 18, and he was already kind of in this, black ops world before that.
I know why. I know how he got recruited, and I know why. Okay, They were. I interviewed a kid that Barry brought in 20 years later into his operation, and he said that he was pretty sure Barry was interested in him because he was an intelligent youth who was footless, and his parents didn't necessarily care if he came home at night. Okay? Yeah. I interviewed a guy who was special forces, not just special ops, special forces. I said, what kind of credentials did you have to have for that? And he said it probably helped that he'd been arrested 37 times for stealing cars before he was 16.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. I mean,
They're looking for something. They're looking for something. They were looking for, Barry Seal had the same youth that this guy had, and plus Barry Seal had wanted to be, and this is what made him special. Barry Seal had wanted to be a pilot since he was a kid.
Yeah.
Okay, and the man who taught him to fly, who was very old, and I'm sure he's now dead, just waxed rhapsodic talking about what a good pilot Barry Seal was, like at the age of 14. Okay, flying upside,
Yeah. Interesting. All right, so let's get to modern day, man. It's got to be almost 6 months ago now, right? It's got to be close to 6 months that all of a sudden, a ship was raided that doesn't seem like it should have been. It was,
yes.
It was found with 20. It was found with 20 tons of cocaine, I think it was, and it was not only associated with the banks, but members of that predator class, and that a pesky operation that seems to be going away. So why don't you first tell people what the media's telling us about this and what's really going on?
It was last June. It got busted. Okay.
Yep.
A huge container ship was found to be carrying 20 tons of cocaine, which is more cocaine than you can shake a stick at, certainly. And through that, you learn a few interesting things. One is that with globalization, anybody can sell drugs to anybody and get away with it. Okay. If you want to pin the blame for that 20 tons of cocaine on somebody, tell me where to start. Okay. It's run by the crew is run, the ship is being run by an outfit, a private company based in Geneva, which is owned by a mobster, a Sicilian, not a Sicilian, and I can't even say the name.
He's an Italian guy, though. It's him and his wife, right? I remember.
The Nagragata. Okay?
Yeah. I reported on it when it happened. I forgot his name.
I mangled that. Okay, so you could blame him, or you could blame J.P. Morgan Chase, which owned the boat, or you could blame the people that had just sold the boat to J.P. Morgan Chase, and that's who, if I had to pick somebody, I'd pick right at the moment, without evidence to the contrary, and that's a big Chinese outfit called HNA Group. Okay. HNA Group, yeah, you're there. Thanks, because I can't talk and chew gum at the same time.
I got you.
HNA Group, I learned more about China. Yeah, there he is. Look at this woman. Look at this woman. Okay, behind every successful man, there's a woman. Look at that gal, man.
Well, that's one thing that drives me nuts. People really just don't believe that women can be as ruthless as men in this game, and they are completely wrong. I mean, you look at the Queen of England, you think she's a good person? Come on, man.
Why do you think we do it? I mean, I have enough. Don't you have enough? I mean, I can eat today, I can eat tomorrow, I can, other than sitting around scratching under your arms while you watch football, what do you need? Okay, it's for women. You do it all for you. Well, and that's evolution. Mm-hmm. That's the carrot. That's the carrot they put out in front of our noses, I guess. But don't quote me.
No, I hear you. So this gets released. There's I think $50 million in cash.
Right. No, HNA Group. You got to hear more about that. Okay, yeah. HNA Group is typical of China. In that they kept borrowing money and buying stuff until they couldn't anymore, and now we're going bankrupt. Mm-hmm. All right, and they're desperately selling off assets. Okay, they would have, and plus the other thing is the chairman of the group was murdered in a slip and fall while on vacation in Italy. Conveniently, several months later. Okay, so who do you blame? You're not allowed to. Okay, and especially you're not allowed to when you learn whose dope it was. Okay, it was the Russian mob's dope. Okay, they were okay. Let's get back to Oleg Deripaska. Okay,
let's hear it.
Arrested on the boat were 6 people. Okay, at this moment in time, the 20 tons of cocaine kingpin is suspected to be the ship's second mate. Okay, I don't imagine that he made enough money for anyone to front him 20 tons of cocaine, but that's where it stands. And the reason that's where it will stand is because the U.S. attorney can't do a thing about it. Okay, it's Russian mob dope. Okay, and the Russian mob has been supporting our current president for quite some time now. Okay, here's how I know it's Russian mob dope. The second mate and three of the other seamen on the ship that were arrested are all from Kotor, Kotor, Montenegro.
Okay.
Right now in Kotor, Montenegro, there's a mob war going on that's been raging across Europe for 3 years. There have been dozens of victims. We don't hear about it, but I got the clips, okay? People are being murdered in Spain, they're being murdered in Germany, all because of this war between these two groups. And who else is in Kotor? Oleg Deripaska has just built a billionaire's yacht basin and $1 billion resort right next door. The same Oleg Deripaska that is accused in Montenegro of having instigated a coup and having attempted to fix the last election. Okay, that's not me saying this. That's not Hillary Clinton saying, God, I hate Hillary. Did you know I hate Hillary Clinton?
Listen, Daniel, again, one of the reasons I wanted to get you on here is because I do think you're a genuine person. We can have our disagreements, but you've always gone after both sides of the fence. It hasn't ever mattered, in my opinion, at least that I've seen of your work, who's in charge, because, it's guys like you and even Peter Dale Scott that have talked about this deep state and fleshed it out so much. We can have the small arguments. That's fine. But knowing about the corruption.
Well, why I know about wait. Your audience used to know this.
Yeah.
Maybe you do too. I don't know. Why I knew about Oleg Deripaska in 2005 was because the co-pilot on the 29 weekly Learjet flights running drugs from South America to here on a Learjet owned by Wally Hilliard, who owned Huffman Aviation at the time, where Muhammad Atta was learning to fly, okay? There's a guy named Michael Francis Brassington, who never was charged for being on 29 drug flights. He was the co-pilot, okay? Sure. So he was with the DEA, or at least we can conjecture that he might have been, okay? He's from the most prominent family in the country of Guyana, okay? His dad had the absolute plum job in Guyana. He was Minister of Privatization, okay? And while he was Minister of Privatization, Oleg Deripaska, who was an aluminum magnate in his own country after murdering everyone else in the business, does a $1 billion deal with Brassington/Guyana to build a bauxite facility there, okay? Brassington, after running on those 29 weekly drug flights, goes on to an illustrious career in the Caribbean, flying drugs all over for Michael Missick, among others. Michael Missick, who was the convicted premier of, and this is a great story, dude. Michael Missick is the convicted premier of Turks and Caicos, the only case in world history where a country has gone back in after giving one of its colonies independence was Turks and Caicos. The UK stepped in and took it back over because it was so corrupt. Okay, and we know all about it because Michael Missick married a Hollywood starlet. Okay,
who did he marry?
Excuse my language. Just when you said it was on the Lisa Ray McCoy. Ray McCoy.
Okay.
A black starlet. Okay. And when she divorced him, see now, and this is the only time I ever learned anything is from ex-wives and double-crossed business partners. Okay. Lisa Ray testified at the hearing where they sent her husband, the premier, away to prison for corruption. And what she testified when she met him, Missick, well that's his name. That when she met him, he told her he was worth $40,000. He later dated Omarosa.
Oh, the Trump aide, and from the I know what you're talking about. That also double-crossed Trump as well. There was rumors that they had an affair.
Whatever.
Yeah.
So she goes to testify, and she says, he told me he was worth $40,000 when I met him, Okay, he became premier the next year. And 2 years later, he was worth 140 million.
That's weird. 2 years, huh? 140 mil? Can we make that happen, Burmese Brigade?
And his Michael Francis Brassington was his personal pilot.
Okay.
Michael Francis Brassington's family had just cut $1 billion deal with Oleg Deripaska.
So we've been running for about 45, Mr. Hopsicker. This has been a pleasure. We're going to have you on again. But, to kind of wrap it up, what do you think is going to happen with this? Well, I mean, we've been all over the place. And if there's any kind of subject matter that you want to put in and whatever, please feel free. But I want to get your take on where do you think, number one, why do you think it was allowed that Epstein was finally arrested in July only to have this whole debacle, fall through? We now know that Maria Farmer, for instance, went to the FBI all the way back in 96, predating the Palm Beach stuff, the NYPD. There's reports we're going to get other arrests. Obviously, Ghislaine Maxwell is the first on that list, but there's, a ton of these women from Sarah Palin to Nadia Marcinkova to Malyshev. Do we get arrests? Does it unravel?
Well, I believe Q.
What's that?
Donald Trump has been sent to this world, okay, to eliminate the corruption that has corrupted our elite class globally. Okay.
Listen, here's my problem. I do think that the guy, he's got a big ego. I think that people fed him, a lot of yes men. Roger Stone is obviously, as intelligent and devious as it gets. Anybody who's the protege of Roy Cohn, who is, just about as ruthless as it gets on top of that. Roger Stone to me, first of all, I want to say this.
I like Roger Stone.
My problem with Stone is I don't hate everything about him, but he's the guy that's the architect with Manafort and his buddy.
When you meet someone that's as openly and blatantly corrupt as he is, okay?
Yeah, but they have the lobbyists, man. Daniel, he started modern-day lobbying.
He's like a riverboat gambler, dude. He's not trying to hide it. He's wearing the white suits.
I respect again. I don't like why he went. First of all, you should be able to lie to Congress, especially when they lie to us every single day and sign off on all these fake wars and all the bullshit they know about. But he is, again, the architect for modern day lobbying. If we're ever going to have a quote-unquote constitutional republic or a democracy again, how are we going to do so without taking the money out of private corporations and interests to come in, buy off our politicians, give them 7-figure salaries when they get out of a 6-year or a 4-year term? How do we stop that without getting rid of lobbying? It's not what the founders...
There's two things that have to be done. Okay? And neither one of them can be done currently, and probably not in your or my lifetimes. Okay. Number one, they need to take the private offshore money away from them. Okay.
Yeah.
There's hundreds of trillions of dollars parked offshore that is not benefiting the world economy, and that has to stop. And if it doesn't stop, it'll just keep continuing, and then we'll look like the movie Dune in the year 3000.
They're remaking it. They're remaking Dune, by the way. It's coming.
See, you're much more au courant than I am, all right? It's like last movie I heard about was Star Wars.
Hey, I'm a David Lynch guy. David Lynch. I'm not. Some of his stuff is a little over the top, but Dune.
See, there you go. You blend David Lynch and QAnon together, and you have an accurate description of the world we live in. Okay?
Inland Empire maybe predicted Q. Who knows? Maybe David Lynch is Q in another timeline.
No, Jason, you got to believe me here. If anything I've said is vaguely credible to you at all, I know who Q is.
Oh, do you? Right now, the person that's posting today?
I know the guy behind the operation.
You think so, huh?
I know so.
Okay. Well, are you going to give it to me in my audience?
I am going to give it to you, and then I'm going to give you a 15-second rationale, and you're going to go, "Oh man, I never thought of that." Okay?
Let's hear it.
It's what's his name? It's the doctor.
Which doctor?
I'm trying to. This has got to be a senior moment, man. It's Corsi, Jerome Corsi.
You think he's the one that started it all?
Listen up. You and I should be kissing his feet, okay? Jerome Corsi is the world master of disinformation. Jerome Corsi swift-voted John Kerry and then birth certificated Barack Obama.
Okay.
He's a crook on his own self. Okay, he was a crooked stockbroker who stole a couple $1 million from investors on a deal in Poland. Okay, back when our guys were going over to the newly free Eastern Europe and just stealing anything that was there. And he's got, you have to respect ability in any business. Okay, even do you know anyone else is like that has done 2 or 3 elections the way he has? No, it's him.
I mean, I've been following Corsi since WorldNet Daily for sure, probably about 2003, 2004. But that's because I've checked out a wide range of sources, and I've been familiar with him.
He's a devotee of like the original guy in disinformation. He studied with him.
It's interesting stuff. All right, Mr. Hopsicker. Mad Cow Prod is the website. That's where you can check out all of his stuff. You can get his book on Amazon. At least you can get Barry and the Boys on Amazon, as well as Welcome to Terrorland. I suggest both.
Look at that. Look at that. You can buy it used for $116.
It looks like you can get a paperback on the other one. Hold on.
You know what? I'm going to have to explain it to you. Why it sells for 134 or whatever it's selling for there.
Yeah.
Is because it didn't reach bookstores for 5 years after it came out.
Yeah.
Because of lawsuits. I mean,
Well, if you want the real story, guys, if you want something much less Hollywood and more intriguing than American Made, I suggest you go check it out. Again, I want to thank you for your time, my man. And hopefully we're going to get together in the future. Please hit me up in the DMs at any time. And, you got any story you want to go over, any debate, I'd love to set it up.
I'm glad I made you laugh, dude.
This was a good time, Daniel. Thank you once again. All right.
Take care.
We'll see you later. So there it is. Finally, we had Daniel Hopsicker on. And again, I may not agree with him on everything, but I think that, for an on-the-ground journalist and author, he's one of the pioneers of real independent media. And we can have those disagreements. That's fine. I don't necessarily think that Corsi is Q. I think that he grifted quite a bit later on, using Q and knowing, it wasn't what he was saying it was. But that's just a personal opinion. I know that many people out there like to use the term LARPer, but I don't really use that stuff. Guys, I'm a documentary filmmaker, okay? If you want to see my documentary films, they're easy to check out. Loose Change, Final Cut, Fabled Enemies, Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined, and Shade the Motion Picture are free right here, right now, in the documentaries playlist section. I encourage you to go check them out. If you want to financially support a true independent voice that's not about left or right, that's going to have somebody like Daniel Hopsicker on, even if he disagrees with them on certain aspects, that wants open conversations, that wants information out there so you can make a decision. Because I've never thought it's about left or right. It's always about right and wrong. I guess I am sort of a big picture guy, but I've been doing this a long, long time. And every time that I am wrong, I'll own it. I always own it. We're human beings. We're going to make mistakes. That being said, I'm going to be back on the flip side with a Harvey Weinstein update. I was going to originally do it yesterday. I wanted to wait for the first court hearing to end, and then I just didn't get around to it after doing Mixed Martial Mindset with John Fitch, the once-a-week MMA show that you can also find the audio cast on thegruelingtruth.com. Love you. See you all on the flip side.